Gary, now we were talking a little bit about education for a second there in the next generation, but I know that there has been some frustration from teachers, particularly in Victoria, who write to me in The Spectator and say that they've seen the attention spans of children rapidly decrease as their dependence on social media increases. Now, I'm going to lay the blame at things like Snapchat and TikTok because these platforms encourage children to endlessly scroll through content. But the situation has now evolved to the point where the school system is taking out novels for senior students and replacing them with short stories because they don't have the attention span to read the novels. Now, are there going to be implications for society as a whole as these citizens become part of our workforce and become part of the industry leaders? Because personally, I think this could be more damaging than even the left-wing indoctrination is.
You know, reading should be a pastime and a joy, not a chore. That's one thing I'll say. And when I did my university degrees a few years ago, I was reading novels that were sort of, boys' own kind of, rollicking good fun, like Clive Cussler, the late Clive Cussler, and the famous Dirk Pitt.
I love Clive Cussler. I'm just going to say that I have an entire bookshelf full of Clive Cussler.
Well, I do too, but the fun part for me is that he signed his fifth book to Gary, after whom I modelled my hero, Dirk Pitt. So I've got that. I think that was his party trick, but that's it was back 1982 when I met him, and sadly he's no longer with us. But I found that reading for pleasure while having to read it for a chore actually made the reading for a chore thing work. Look, years ago I did kids TV on the 7 Network, a show called Wombat, which is a magazine program. It was great fun. But it was aimed for kids aged between 8 and 11. And the rule of the day was that you had to change the picture every 4 seconds because that was the way you kept kids' attention span. So, kids are always going to be looking for the next treat, but we can't dumb down the difficult stuff just to suit kids. We actually have to give them a chance to grow in knowledge. And again, it's back to this point that kids are being told what to learn, not how to learn. And how to learn is a trick. There's a damaged generation, not everybody, and the ones that are not damaged, the ones that have applied themselves, they're going to be running the country. And I'm a bit optimistic, a bit more optimistic perhaps than you about that, but it's certainly been a case where we're told that all that's come before us is bad. Anything that is white Anglo-Celtic is bad. Anything that is Christian is bad. Anything that's Western civilization is bad. It's not. It's actually delivered us to where we are now, to the point where we're egalitarian, we're inclusive in the sense that we'll take on other people with other beliefs. We just challenge them to pick up on the way our society normally operates. And that's the thing. People don't migrate to this country. Well, normally they don't migrate to this country to change it. They come to be part of it. We've just got to provide a way to show them how to do it. And with kids, we've got to say, well, you know what, you can still celebrate Christmas. You can still commemorate Easter. You can still have your Diwali days and your Eid days and your Ramadan period of not eating. We can accommodate it all, but because we've got so many other things in common. And if we don't invest in our kids, we're going to be paying a big price in the future.
Yeah, our poor kids are being treated with things like hot tick cross buns instead of hot cross buns and gesture eggs instead of Easter eggs these days, so I do feel sorry for them. I might be less optimistic than you because I sit on the train every day because my train line runs between a lot of high schools, and so I hear a lot of conversations between these kids, and it does worry me a little bit what I hear going on. But look,
I get it. I understand it. Yeah.
No, but you are totally right. Part of school is to take children with short attention spans and teach them how to focus, how to learn, and how to become an adult. That's the whole point of the schooling industry. But it's very difficult to teach a child history if a child cannot read more than a few pages. Now, the richness of our heritage is quite literally being forgotten. It reminds me of that period in Western history which you touched on, where the populace was largely illiterate, and so the knowledge fell into the hands of a few gatekeepers, whether they were church leaders or politicians. The people who were talking to the masses were the ones who controlled what those masses were able to learn and to know. Now, that started to change when they translated Bibles into English and the common people could start reading instead of it being Latin. But Gary, could the real cancer culture of our age be that we simply don't have the patience to learn?
Well, it could be. I saw Tyrus Murdoch, who's a wrestling champion in the past, talking on American television the other day, and he made the point. He said he tells his kids, stop using your devices and Wikipedia and Google to look things up. Go and get a book. Now, there's nothing wrong with using Google or whatever to go searching and finding out stuff. But I think it's good to also get a second source. And I mean, one of the things we all should do through life is to have an opinion, but then not be afraid to hear the opinion of others, because sometimes it can temper it, add to it, improve it, maybe contradict it. I don't know. We learn from conversation. We learn from interaction. And so kids, just don't settle for the first source you find. Go and look at some others. And then I've heard all sorts of nonsense about some who get marked down and get refused pass marks because they write something contrary to climate change or whatever it might happen to be. You just know that there is a setting them up for fail kind of approach that's taking place currently, which I think is really, really sad.